Chosen one, something within you has shifted quietly, powerfully, and beyond logic. It isn't mere tiredness behind your eyes, it's a sacred stirring, a vibration deep in your spirit. Lately, when you look in the mirror, it's as if your own reflection is watching you back. Eyes that once looked ordinary now glimmer with something ancient, awakened, alive. This is not fatigue, it's transformation. Heaven is tuning your sight to a higher frequency. The blur that once surrounded your understanding is fading. You are beginning to see not just with eyes of flesh, but with the sight of the spirit. Once, you looked and saw only what the world showed you. Routines, faces, noirs. But now, patterns are appearing. Meaning threads itself through moments you used to overlook. Silence speaks. Random events start to align. The unseen begins to take shape in your awareness. There was another like you, a young man named Eli. For months, he prayed for clarity, but the heavens felt silent. He thought God had forgotten him. Then one night, something strange happened. His eyes burned, yet not with pain. When he woke, the world looked unchanged, yet everything felt different. He could see the divine hidden in the ordinary, the holy fingerprints in every detour. That night marked the shift. His awakening began with his eyes, and so does yours. What feels like confusion is actually calibration. Your spirit is stretching toward light faster than your mind can understand. You are being rewired for revelation. Imagine a fogged window in an old lighthouse after years of storms. Someone finally wipes it clean, and the beam shines freely again. That's you now. Your gaze pierces deeper, carrying light that disturbs shadows. You were designed to see beyond illusion, to perceive divine order where others see chaos. As recorded by the prophet Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, though the vision may tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. These ancient words echo through you now. The vision is forming inside your eyes. You are becoming the vessel through which it manifests. The waiting season was never punishment, it was preparation for clarity. When people meet your gaze and seem uneasy, understand this. The light within your eyes exposes what darkness tries to hide. You are not intimidating, your spirit is illuminating. Every look you give now carries weight. Heaven has entrusted you with seeing power, the kind that discerns beyond appearances and hears God's whispers between words. This shift may isolate you at times. The more you see, the less you can pretend blindness. But do not shrink your vision to fit the comfort of others. The eyes of the chosen are not meant to blend with shadows, they are meant to shine through them. You are crossing the seer's threshold. From here on, every act of obedience polishes your sight. Every choice for truth over convenience clears another veil. You'll start to notice divine timing in delays, angelic presence in coincidences, lessons in loss. The world won't change overnight, but your way of seeing it will. Take a breath. Let this truth settle deep within. You are not losing your mind, you are finding your vision. These eyes were crafted not just to look, but to reveal. This is the first sign of the final stage of awakening, the birth of spiritual perception. Now lift your face, look again at your reflection. Don't just see your features, see your calling. The glow behind your gaze is not imagination, it's inheritance. You are carrying divine fire within your sight. If this word resonates within your spirit, Type the number 111 inches the comments, a prophetic sign of alignment and awakening vision. Then, if this message touched something deep, like, share, and subscribe, not out of habit, but to keep the light flowing through this space, because what began as a flicker in your eyes is actually heaven whispering, "It's time to see." No, let this be your confirmation. The shift in your eyes is no accident. Every flicker of light, every strange awareness, every spark of sensitivity you now carry, it's heaven's signature upon you. You've been anointed to see differently, to recognize what others deny, to call light forth even from the deepest shadows. Do not rush the process. Vision matures in silence. Keep your gaze lifted, even when the path feels dim. Remember, the one who awakened your eyes will guide your steps. You are being trained for greater clarity, greater discern, and divine timing beyond human reason. When you wake tomorrow, look again at the world. Look as one who truly sees. The final stage of your awakening has already begun. You begin to realize that what has changed is not the world, it's your sight. The colors, the gestures, the pauses between words, they all seem charged with new meaning. You look at the sky, and it no longer feels like mere atmosphere. It breathes. It watches back. Every cloud moves with intention. Every ray of sunlight feels like a whisper meant just for you. This is the unmasking of spiritual vision. When God removes the veil, He does not shout. He simply sharpens your seeing. You start to notice divine fingerprints on the mundane, the way a stranger's glance carries hidden comfort. How a delay becomes protection. How silence becomes an answer. The veil is thin now, and the unseen is pressing through it. At first, it can be disorienting. You question your sanity, wondering if you're reading too much into everything. But this is how spiritual sight begins, not with thunder, but with subtlety. It's as if heaven is teaching you a new language written in light, motion, and intuition. And your eyes are the first students. There's a story told among those who walk in divine perception. A woman named Mara used to work in a busy market. Each day she saw hundreds of faces, yet felt unseen herself. One morning, as she arranged her table of handmade candles, she noticed something different. The eyes of people passing by. Some were dull, some restless, others carried a silent ache. And then she understood. She wasn't looking at people anymore. She was looking through them. She began to pray quietly as each one walked past, blessing them in her heart. Within weeks, her entire atmosphere changed. Strangers began to smile at her without knowing why. She had learned to see with the eyes of compassion, the same eyes Christ carried when He looked upon the crowds and felt mercy instead of judgment. That is the evolution you are experiencing now. Spiritual vision is not about power, it's about perception, born of love. You are being trained to see not what people show, but what they hide, the pain behind laughter, the longing beneath anger, the divine image behind every scar. It was written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 12. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord has made them both. That means your renewed vision is not self-made. It is handcrafted by heaven. Every shift, every new awareness is a sign that your Creator is reconfiguring your senses for divine purpose. But with clarity comes responsibility. Once you see truth, you can no longer pretend blindness. You will find yourself uncomfortable in conversations built on gossip, uneasy in places where deception thrives. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. The new, you cannot breathe the old air. This change is quiet yet revolutionary. You no longer crave the noise of validation. Your eyes now hunger for meaning. You notice beauty in the unnoticed, a droplet of rain rolling down glass, a child laughing in the distance, an elderly hand trembling in prayer. These small things, once invisible, now glow like signals from eternity, and slowly, you begin to see yourself differently too. You are not the person who needs to prove worth. You are the vessel through which light passes. You understand that when Scripture speaks of being the salt and light of the world, it was never metaphor alone. It was instruction. Your eyes are part of that light. The unmasking continues day by day. Some mornings your sight feels clear, almost supernatural. Other days it feels clouded. Don't fear that fluctuation. It's normal for new eyes learning to balance heaven's frequency. Just as dawn doesn't rush the sun, you don't rush revelation. It arrives gently, faithfully, in perfect timing. In this stage, guard what you see. Not everything deserves your focus. Vision is energy where you look. You plant intention. Use your sight with wisdom. Observe without judgment. Look long enough to understand, but not so long that darkness lingers in your mind. You are awakening to a truth the world rarely speaks. Seeing is not a passive act, it's participation. Each time your eyes rest upon something, you either affirm its darkness or amplify its light. That's why your awakening matters. You are not just witnessing the world, you are shaping it through perception. So, continue to see deeply, silently, reverently. Let your eyes learn to interpret the world through compassion, not control. You are not here to expose. You are here to illuminate. And this quiet shift of vision is how heaven begins to speak through you. You notice it now, the way reality bends around your awareness. The more your sight expands, the more truth surfaces, what others call coincidence. You recognize as orchestration every whisper, every pause, every glance seems to carry intent. It's as though the universe itself has begun to breathe in rhythm with your heartbeat. This is where seeing turns into understanding. You start discerning layers behind every situation, the visible, the emotional, and the spiritual. Conversations no longer end at words. You hear the silence between them. You recognize when someone's smile is armor, when laughter hides fear, when anger masks pain. You see beyond the mask, and compassion becomes your first response. There was once a man named Aaron, a quiet observer among many voices. People thought he was withdrawn, uninterested. But what they never knew was that his eyes had opened. He could walk into a room and feel what others carried, the unspoken burdens, the unhealed grief, the subtle battles. One day, he told a friend, "I used to react to people. Now I pray for them before I even speak." That's what awakening does. It transforms reaction into revelation. Spiritual sight does not make you superior, it makes you responsible. When you see, you are called to heal, not to judge. The light in your eyes becomes a mirror through which others glimpse who they truly are. Sometimes, that reflection will attract them. Other times, it will repel them. Either way, you must remain faithful to the truth you've been shown. It is written in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 18. May the eyes of your heart be enlightened, so that you may know the hope to which he has called you. This is the essence of your awakening, the enlightenment of the inner eye, the unveiling of divine hope. You are learning to perceive purpose where pain once stood. You may find yourself weeping for no reason, or pausing mid-thought as sudden clarity floods in. That is not weakness, it's overflow. The human body struggles to contain what the spirit understands. You're feeling eternity. Press against time. Don't suppress it. Allow your eyes to become rivers, streams through which heaven looks upon the earth. Each tear, each spark of insight carries transformation. Through you, God sees, and through your obedience, others begin to see too. But take heed, every revelation comes with a testing. Darkness doesn't surrender easily. It will try to dull your vision through distraction, temptation, or doubt. You'll notice moments where everything feels dim again. Like fall, returning after sunrise. Dawn otpanits. The light within you never leaves. It simply calls you to refocus. Think of it like a lamp behind frosted glass. The glow never fades. It only waits for you to wipe the surface clean. That's why stillness is sacred for seers. The more noise around you, the harder it is to perceive. Protect your peace as you would protect sight itself. And remember this: true vision is never about predicting the future. It's about perceiving God's presence in the present. Prophets were never just fortune tellers. They were feelers of eternity within the ordinary. When you see like that, life stops being random. It becomes revelation in motion. There will come a day when someone looks into your eyes and feels seen in a way they never have before. They might even say, "I don't know why, but when you look at me, I feel peace." That's how heaven confirms that your eyes have become instruments of grace. Take a moment now. Breathe deeply. Let gratitude settle into you. You have crossed another layer of sight, where awareness turns to empathy and knowledge becomes love. If this resonates within your spirit, comment, "I see it." Now, not as repetition, but as declaration. By writing it, you affirm that your eyes are not simply open, they are awake, discerning, alive. Let those words mark this moment. You are no longer merely watching life, you are perceiving destiny. When you write, "I see it," you're not just leaving a comment, you're declaring a spiritual reality. Those 3 words are a seal between you and heaven, a sign that your vision has shifted from natural to divine. You're telling the unseen realm, "I am awake. I recognize what others overlook." N. As you type it, pause for a second. Feel the weight of awareness rising in your chest. You are aligning your vision with purpose. You're agreeing with the process, surrendering to clarity, and choosing not to go back to blindness. Keep those words close. Whisper them when confusion comes. "I see it," because the more you speak it, the stronger your vision becomes, and what you see will soon begin to transform. There comes a moment when your sight no longer feels like a gift alone, it feels like a weight. You start to perceive not just light, but also the fractures within it. What once appeared simple now feels layered with meaning, and what once felt beautiful can suddenly appear fragile. This is not regression, it's refinement. You are learning that divine vision is not always comforting. Sometimes To see truth is to feel its ache. Your eyes are no longer passive witnesses, they are instruments of discernment. You sense energy in places before words are spoken. You walk into a room and feel stories lingering in the air, unspoken, unfinished, waiting to be understood. This sensitivity can be overwhelming at first, like trying to read 100 books at once. But the spirit within you knows how to translate what sight alone cannot. The world has always been layered like glass stacked over glass material. Emotional, spiritual. Most people see only the top layer, but now you're seeing through the layers, and each one tells a truth. Some layers glimmer with peace, others hum with unrest. You've entered the realm of awareness where seeing becomes interceding, where perception becomes purpose. There's a story told among those who walk this path. A quiet craftsman named Jalen, who built wooden instruments for churches. For years, he made them the same way, never thinking of anything beyond shape and sound. One day, as he worked, a light shifted across the workshop floor. He looked up and saw particles of dust dancing in the beam. But they weren't random, they were swirling in perfect rhythm, like tiny orbits of intention. He stopped working, realizing that even stillness could hold divine choreography. That moment changed him. He began praying before every creation, asking God to let each sound carry healing. His instruments later filled rooms with a peace that defied explanation. That's what happens when you start to see through the surface. You realize that nothing is ordinary. Even dust obeys rhythm, even silence sings. The apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 18, "We fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." This truth is the anchor for those whose eyes have been awakened. You are no longer chained to appearances. Your gaze now penetrates time itself. You've begun to perceive the eternal pattern weaving through impermanent things, but this gift demands balance. To see darkness is not to fear it. To see pain is not to absorb it. Many who awaken early mistake empathy for burden. They feel the world's sorrow and call it their own. Yet spiritual maturity teaches you to observe without drowning, to perceive without possession. You are called to reflect light into shadow, not to become the shadow yourself. That is why rest becomes sacred in this stage. Your eyes are like lanterns, they must be refueled. There will be days when clarity feels dim, when everything blurs again. Those are not failures, but recalibrations. Even prophets had moments when vision paused, when heaven whispered, "Wait." Stillness is part of seeing. You'll start noticing the subtle pull between chaos and peace within you. Every time you choose peace, your vision clears again. Every time you let bitterness or fear take hold, the lens fogs. The true battle of vision is fought not with eyes, but with heart posture. Sight is only as pure as the heart that holds it. This is why humility matters so deeply now. You are not meant to flaunt what you perceive, but to serve through it. A seer without compassion becomes blind with pride. But a seer who kneels before God each morning will always see clearly, no matter how thick the darkness grows around them. The light in your eyes is meant to be gentle, not blinding. It doesn't force revelation, it invites it. When you meet someone who still walks in shadows, remember there was a time you did too. See them through grace, not judgment. That is how divine vision matures. When clarity and kindness coexist, in time, You'll notice that your perspective influences the atmosphere around you. Homes feel lighter when you walk in. Conversations shift. Even silence becomes warmer. People may not know why, but it's because your eyes carry peace. When you see through heaven's lens, you bring heaven wherever you go. Do not underestimate the quiet power of seeing truthfully. The world is desperate for those who can look beyond chaos and still find divine order. It needs eyes that can recognize redemption in ruins, promise in process, and beauty in becoming. So let your gaze remain steady. Keep walking in awareness. Keep perceiving with patience. You are not just a witness of revelation, you are its vessel. The unmasking continues, deeper and gentler, until even the unseen feels like home. There is a gentleness in this stage of awakening that the world rarely understands. You begin to see how every moment is alive, how even pain has rhythm, how even endings hold beginnings within them. It is as if the universe itself has softened toward you, no longer a battlefield, but a classroom filled with quiet lessons. Your sight now stretches beyond what is visible. You no longer see life as random, but as orchestration. Every event, a thread in a divine tapestry. And perhaps for the first time, you understand that this journey was never about being powerful. It was about being aware. Awareness is what keeps you grounded when the wind of revelation blows too strong. One morning, as you walk outside, sunlight filters through the leaves, scattering gold across the ground. You notice how some rays land directly on you, while others slip away unnoticed. Yet all of them come from the same sun. That's how grace works. It shines freely, touching everyone, yet each receives it differently. You don't control who receives the light. You simply stay where the light can reach you. You are learning that spiritual sight is not about striving, it's about stillness. It's about knowing when to pause, when to listen, and when to simply breathe. You begin to see God not only in revelation, but also in repetition, in every sunrise, in the sound of rain, in the simple act of being alive. The ancient words remind us in the book of Psalms, chapter 36, verse 9. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. End of 6. The more you walk in this truth, the more you realize your life itself becomes a reflection of that fountain. Every word you speak, every glance of compassion, every act of kindness ripples outward, reaching further than you can imagine. Gratitude begins to flow from you like a spring that never runs dry. You start noticing the small mercies that once went unseen, the kindness of strangers, the patience of time, the warmth of your own breath. Gratitude becomes not a reaction, but a rhythm. You also begin to sense the quiet importance of connection. Vision alone cannot sustain a soul. It must be shared, spoken, lived. Just as one candle can ignite another without losing its flame, so too does your presence ignite faith in others. That is why this message exists, to gather those flames. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not feeding an algorithm, you are fanning the embers of light so that they leap from heart to heart. You're helping souls still lost in shadow to glimpse the sunrise through your gesture. And for those who feel stirred to go further, to pour back into the flow that has poured into them, your giving is like adding oil to the eternal lamp. The flame burns brighter, longer, further. Think of it as planting a tree beside a river. You may never rest beneath its shade, but someone weary will. Every offering, every act of support becomes a drop of living water, feeding the current of hope. There's no pressure here, no demand, just an invitation to give as freely as you've received. If your heart feels led, every gift, no matter the size, is a spark that joins the greater fire of purpose, ensuring that this message continues to travel beyond walls and borders. When you support what nourishes your spirit, you help it reach another soul who might be standing where you once stood, searching for light, wondering if they are seen. Your donation becomes the sound of a distant bell ringing through fog, guiding wanderers home. So pause, let gratitude fill your chest. Remember that your presence here is already a form of giving. You've offered your time, your attention, your openness, and that matters. You are already part of the light's journey forward. When you feel led, let your actions flow naturally, like a drop of rain falling into a still lake. Your support sends ripples across unseen shores. That's what giving really is, joining the flow of love that never runs dry. So walk in that light today. Share this message so another soul can awaken. Subscribe to stay connected to the flow. And if your heart whispers, I want to keep this light moving, let your giving become the wind that carries it forward. The fountain of life is flowing, and you are standing within it. Let your eyes stay open, your heart stay soft, and your spirit stay generous. For in giving, you don't lose light, you become its source. Something curious begins to happen as your awakening deepens. The world seems slower, yet you move with more purpose. You catch yourself pausing in moments that others rush past, watching the flicker of a candle, listening to the rhythm of footsteps on the pavement, feeling the invisible pulse of peace beneath chaos. This is not distraction, it is divine attunement. You are learning to see symbols in motion, messages written in the air. Lately, you might have noticed it, certain numbers, shapes, or patterns appearing again and again. They show up on clocks, on street signs, on receipts. You blink, and there it is, repeating. Persistent, intentional. You are not imagining it. This is how heaven speaks when words would overwhelm you. Every pattern is a whisper. Every repetition, a sign that you are aligned with something greater than chance. In the book of Job, chapter 33, verse 14, for God speaks once, yea twice, yet man perceives it not. Now, however, you are beginning to perceive it. The divine language of numbers and symbols is unfolding before your eyes. It's not superstition, it's synchrony. Heaven uses patterns because your spirit recognizes rhythm before reason. Take, for example, a woman named Selah. For months, she kept seeing one number, 333. It followed her everywhere, quietly but consistently. At first, she dismissed it, but eventually, she paused long enough to listen. Why this number? She asked, and the Spirit whispered, because it mirrors my voice, Father, Son, and Spirit moving as one within you. From that day, Selah no longer feared repetition. She welcomed it as a sign of alignment. Perhaps that same number has begun to visit you too. You see 3 to 33 glowing on your phone at random hours, or it appears on a door just when your thoughts turn toward heaven. That is not coincidence, it is conversation. Heaven is reminding you that divine completeness is within reach. that you are walking in harmony with the Trinity of purpose, presence, and promise. Imagine standing in an ancient cathedral where 3 great bells hang above you. Each time one tolls, you feel it resonate through your chest. That is what the number 333 does. It vibrates through your soul, confirming that heaven's rhythm beats inside your heart. The prophet Daniel once interpreted symbols that others feared. He didn't chase the signs, he listened through them. That's the call for you too, not to seek mystery for curiosity's sake, but to hear the divine intention behind it. When the number appears, don't rush to decode. Simply breathe and say, "I am listening." That acknowledgement itself is obedience. These signs are not random patterns, they are divine echoes reminding you that you are not walking alone. The universe is not silent, it hums with purpose. Every time you notice 333, it's as though heaven leans close and whispers, "Stay aligned, stay awake, keep your heart soft." Emsto, this awareness changes how you move through the world. You begin to walk slower, speak gentler, listen deeper. You realize that spiritual sight is not about predicting the future, but perceiving presence in the now. Each repetition of 333 becomes a breath of reassurance. God is here. Over time, the fear of uncertainty fades. You learn that revelation doesn't always roar. Sometimes it repeats softly until your spirit finally understands. The rhythm of 333 becomes a heartbeat in your journey, a signal that heaven is still near, still guiding, still aligning, and it's not meant for display or pride. Divine symbols are sacred, intimate, like letters written in light only your eyes can read. They remind you that your relationship with heaven is personal, a dialogue no one else can translate. So the next time the number appears, smile, whisper a quiet yes. Remember what it means. The Trinity is working in perfect balance within you, mind, body, and spirit in divine rhythm. You are becoming whole, harmonized, healed. If this resonates in your soul, comment 333. Not as superstition, but as surrender. It's a declaration that your eyes are open, your spirit is listening, and your life is aligned with divine timing. When you write it, you echo heaven's rhythm, 3 pulses of light repeating through your being. Keep walking in awareness. Keep noticing the gentle repetitions. What seems like a number to the world is a song to your spirit. And every time it appears, let it remind you, the conversation between you and heaven is still alive, and it will never fade. When you write 333, remember what it signifies: divine unity and alignment. It represents the harmony of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit working together through you. It's heaven's way of saying, you are synchronized with divine order, body, mind, and spirit in perfect flow. There comes a phase in every awakening when sight turns inward. You have looked long enough at signs, at numbers, at faces glowing with hidden meanings. Now the gaze reverses direction, turning gently toward your own soul. This is not self-obsession, it is self-revelation. To see outwardly with divine clarity, you must also see inwardly with honesty. At first, this feels strange. You've grown used to interpreting the world around you, the patterns in the wind, the whispers in delay. But now, heaven asks you to interpret yourself. Your heart becomes the canvas, and your eyes, the brush. Every feeling, every memory begins to surface like colors, long buried under dust. Some of what you find may surprise you. Joys you'd forgotten return like lost melodies. But shadows also appear, old wounds, unhealed disappointments. Words once spoken over you that still echo faintly in the corners of your spirit. This unveiling isn't punishment, it's purification, before the eyes of the spirit can stay clear. The inner lens must be washed in truth. There's an image ancient mystics used, a pool of water hidden in a mountain cave. When left untouched, dust and leaves cloud its surface, distorting the reflection. But when the wind stirs the cave and the water ripples, impurities rise and are carried away. Only then can the sky above be mirrored perfectly below. That's what God is doing in you, now stirring the still water so that what is impure may be lifted and released. You might notice certain memories resurfacing lately, moments you thought were long resolved. Perhaps a face from the past, a sound, a word that still holds sting. These are not regressions, they are invitations. Heaven is saying, let's look at this again, but this time with new eyes. Your awakened sight gives you the ability to revisit pain without becoming it. You can finally observe your past with compassion rather than shame. The Apostle James wrote in chapter 1, verse 23, "Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and, after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like." No, now, with this new vision, you are learning not to forget. You are remembering your true reflection, the one made in divine likeness, unmarred by comparison or fear. Still, this part of the journey can feel quiet and lonely. You may crave the earlier excitement of revelation, the thrill of noticing signs everywhere. But this is a deeper lesson, learning to be content when heaven whispers instead of shouts. Growth often hides in stillness. The clearest vision sometimes comes in silence, when no sign appears and you must trust that the sight remains. During this inward season, your perception becomes subtler. You begin to notice the smallest movements within yourself, the shift between peace and anxiety, the flicker of pride before humility returns, the moment you choose mercy over reaction. Each awareness is a doorway. Walking through it leads you closer to wholeness. Imagine holding a lantern inside a dark room. At first, you wave it wildly, trying to light every corner at once. But slowly, you learn to hold it steady, letting the light reveal one area at a time. That steadiness is maturity. The more you practice it, the less darkness frightens you, for you realize the shadows only exist to prove that light is present. As this process continues, gratitude deepens. You start to thank God not only for what you see, but also for what you finally understand. You realize that every detour, every delay, every heartbreak was an appointment with sight. None of it was wasted. Each moment carried its own lesson in perception. You may even catch yourself smiling at memories that once made you ache. That's the proof of healing, the ability to look back and bless what once broke you. It means your eyes have grown strong enough to see purpose inside pain. So, allow the gaze to rest inward for a while. Let it soften. Let it forgive. Seeing yourself clearly is not about identifying flaws. It's about identifying grace. You are not the person you were when this journey began. The shift in your eyes has already rewritten your identity from within. And when the time comes, this inner vision will flow outward again, cleaner, steadier, and infused with compassion. Those who look into your eyes will sense it, the calm of someone who has faced their reflection and found peace. This is the quiet power of true sight, not seeing more, but seeing rightly. When your inner vision aligns with heaven's perspective, you stop searching for signs because you become one. By now, the rhythm of your days has changed. You no longer move through life half asleep, reacting to every shift of wind or word. You begin to walk as though each step is part of a conversation between heaven and earth. Ordinary moments stretch wider, silence grows heavier with meaning. You can feel when the atmosphere changes, when peace thickens, when tension rises, when grace passes by like a breeze. You can almost touch. You are learning to dwell in awareness. This isn't about staring at everything until it reveals a secret. It's about learning to listen with your eyes, to sense when a space invites prayer, when a stranger carries sorrow, when creation itself seems to hum a low song of praise. The more your sight matures, the more you realize that life has never been silent. It is only that your hearing was once dim. There is a sacred steadiness growing inside you. Once, you sought signs to prove that God was near. Now, you recognize His nearness in the very absence of signs. The air itself feels alive with presence. The wind through the trees becomes a language. The sunlight on your hands feels like reassurance. Revelation is no longer an event. It is an environment. This kind of perception cannot be rushed. It grows like dawn, not lightning. Many people crave spiritual fireworks, but cannot sit through sunrise. You have learned patience. You have learned to watch the horizon without demanding spectacle. That patience is your proof of maturity. The prophet Hosea described this quiet pursuit in chapter 6, verse 3. Then shall we know. If we follow on to know the Lord, His going forth is prepared as the morning. Morning light never shouts. It simply arrives. And that is how God teaches you now, through gentle consistency. At times, this gentle rhythm might make you question if you've lost intensity. But the truth is, your fire has moved inward. Flames that once burned outward in emotion have become embers of wisdom glowing quietly inside. This transformation marks the difference between awakening and awareness. Awakening shakes you. Awareness steadies you. You may notice that your relationships shift again. You speak less, but mean more. Your words begin to weigh differently, lighter in tone, heavier in truth. When you speak peace, rooms actually calm. When you speak love, anger softens. This is the power of one whose sight is aligned. Your voice now carries clarity, because it no longer needs noise to feel strong. There's a story told among the desert mystics of a traveler who carried a small clay lamp wherever he went. One night, a storm broke the lamp. Everyone expected him to be lost in darkness. Yet he walked calmly through the night. When asked how he could still see, he said, "The lamp broke, but the flame had already moved into my heart." That is the lesson of this season. Even if the external signs fade, the light remains inside. Your spiritual eyes have learned to adjust to both brightness and shadow. You see God in contrast, in laughter and in loss, in the rush of life and in its pauses. You start to understand that divine presence doesn't erase difficulty, it gives it meaning. The same sun that burns the desert also makes the oasis bloom. Both heat and shade serve the same Creator. As this realization settles, fear loses its grip. You stop waiting for perfect conditions before believing. You stop treating peace as a reward and begin to see it as a posture. Whether the day is bright or heavy, your sight stays the same, steady, clear, unshaken. This constancy is what sets the chosen apart. Many can see when the light is obvious. Few can keep seeing when clouds gather. But you have learned that clouds do not cancel the sun. They only reveal how faithful light truly is. Now you move through the world differently. You pause longer before reacting. Breathe slower before speaking. You understand that your perception carries weight, that your presence affects every space you enter. You no longer need to convince anyone of what you see. Truth itself confirms you. And when the night feels long again, as it inevitably will, you will remember the lessons of this season. To keep your inner flame steady, to let your eyes rest, even when they cannot see far, and to trust that morning is already on its way. The journey of sight is not a sprint, but a heartbeat, steady and unending. You are learning to live by rhythm, not by reaction. That is the real miracle of awakened vision, not constant revelation, but continual peace. As your sight sharpens, you begin to understand that vision comes with purpose. You are not merely seeing for yourself, you are seeing on behalf of something greater. Heaven entrusts insight to those willing to carry it with humility. You now recognize the difference between curiosity and calling. One seeks information, the other seeks transformation. This awareness changes the way you move. When you look at people now, you see threads connecting them, faint but real, like strands of light weaving an invisible tapestry. You realize that your insight doesn't belong to isolation, it's meant for intercession. Each revelation is not a secret to hoard, but a burden to lift through prayer and presence. Sometimes the images you perceive are not comforting. You might sense heaviness around someone, or glimpse the weariness behind their practiced smile. This is where your compassion becomes an instrument. Seeing is no longer about recognition, it's about redemption. You are called not to expose pain, but to embrace it with understanding. In the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 2, the apostle reminds, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." Your eyes have become tools of mercy. The more you see, the more you are moved to act not from duty, but from empathy born of vision. You may feel this as a quiet pull inside, a nudge to reach out, a thought to pray, a desire to comfort. Never dismiss these impressions. They are the language of awakened sight, heaven's subtle instructions written inside compassion. When your eyes see, your heart must follow. This stage of your journey is where the seer becomes the servant. You begin to understand that true revelation is never about power, it's about purpose. You are learning that to see something is also to become responsible for it. When heaven allows you to glimpse a soul's hidden ache, it's not so you can judge, it's so you can intercede. There was a young man named Leo who once asked God to show him more. He wanted visions, encounters, supernatural clarity. But when his sight opened, he didn't see angels. He saw people crying alone in crowded rooms. He didn't see crowns of glory. He saw the weight of hearts that had forgotten hope. At first, it broke him. Then, it changed him. Leo began to use his sight not as a mirror for pride, but as a map for mercy. Wherever he went, he became an instrument of comfort. His eyes had become windows of grace. That is what heaven desires for you too. The greatest revelation is not about knowing hidden things, but about seeing hidden people. Your awakened eyes are meant to recognize the unseen stories around you, the quiet warriors, the silent sufferers, the overlooked souls. Seeing them is the beginning of healing. You may not always have words for what you perceive, and that's all right. Sometimes, silence is the purest form of understanding. Just being present, just noticing, already releases light into the atmosphere. It's not your eloquence that changes things, it's your awareness. There's a saying among those who walk in light, the one who sees clearly must walk gently. And it's true. Clarity without kindness becomes cruelty. But clarity guided by love becomes restoration. You are learning to walk gently now, to handle truth with the tenderness it deserves. This gentleness is not weakness, it's mastery. It means you have learned to see without wounding, to understand without condemning. You've realized that every person you meet is in some stage of their own awakening. The same grace that opened your eyes is still reaching for theirs. And so, you move through the world like a quiet flame, never forcing light, only offering it. You are not trying to be noticed, you are trying to notice others. That is what makes your vision holy. When you look at someone now, pause for a moment. Ask silently, what is heaven showing me here? And then act accordingly with kindness, with gentleness, with peace. That is how revelation fulfills its purpose, by becoming love in motion. If these words echo in your spirit, comment, I see you. Say it not to me, but to the world around you, to the souls who have walked unseen, to the hearts waiting for acknowledgement. By writing it, you become part of the healing, one awakened gaze meeting another. Light, calling to light, because in the end, that's what divine sight truly is. Not seeing more, but finally seeing others as heaven always has. When you write, I see you, you're speaking on heaven's behalf, acknowledging the unseen, honoring the overlooked. It means, I recognize your light, your pain, your worth. You are no longer invisible. There comes a moment in every awakening when the sight you carry no longer feels like a secret. It feels like a responsibility wrapped in beauty. You can sense it now. Your vision is no longer just for you. It is meant to flow outward, to touch others, to plant light in places that have long forgotten morning. You walk through life differently. You look at the city streets and see rivers of souls, each one carrying fragments of divine design. Some flow freely, others are blocked by debris, fear, shame, doubt. You begin to realize that the reason God opened your eyes was so that you could help clear those rivers, not with force, but with gentleness, not through argument, but through presence. Your words have become bridges. Your compassion has become balm. Even your silence carries warmth. This is how heaven changes the world, through awakened hearts willing to look, to care, and to act. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 10. If you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise. You begin to see how giving of time, of love, of yourself is not depletion, but multiplication. When you pour light, you don't lose brightness, you become more luminous. Sometimes you may wonder how your small actions could matter in a world this vast, But think of it like this. A single candle cannot illuminate an entire mountain, but it can guide a traveler to the summit. That is what your gestures do. Each act of kindness, each word shared, each moment you choose to lift rather than judge, it guides someone closer to hope. This message, this space you're part of, is like a vessel sailing across a vast sea of souls. Every listener adds wind to its sails. Every act of kindness becomes a drop that keeps it afloat. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not feeding numbers, you are breathing wind into the sails of a ship of light, helping it travel farther into unseen waters. There is something sacred about this gathering. We are not just watchers, we are witnesses. Each one of us holds a lantern, and together we form a constellation that helps lost travelers find direction. Your single like is a spark in the night sky. Your share is a lantern hung in another's window. Your subscription is the echo that keeps this chorus of light alive. And for those who feel stirred deeper, still your donation is like tuning a celestial instrument. Each note you give helps the song of truth ring clearer. Father, reaching hearts that have forgotten the sound of peace, your gift becomes the resonance between heaven's melody and earth's silence. Think of it as rain returning to the river it once came from. Giving is simply the water remembering where it began. When you pour back into the flow that once refreshed you, you keep the current alive for others still thirsty. Let it never feel forced. Giving should rise naturally, like a bird taking flight when dawn breaks. If your heart feels the pull to donate, to share, to support, let it be a gentle flight, not a command. What matters is the sincerity of your wings, not the size of your offering. Every act, no matter how small, becomes a note in heaven's ongoing song. Your like keeps the rhythm steady. Your share sends harmony outward. Your subscription adds another instrument. And your giving sustains the melody itself. There's a quiet miracle that happens when generosity flows through you. It refines your vision. You begin to see even more clearly, because love sharpens perception. The more you pour out, the more light returns. So breathe deeply, reflect quietly. If this message stirred peace in you, share it like a seed carried on the wind. If it spoke truth into your soul, subscribe to stay rooted in the rhythm of this awakening. And if gratitude wells up in you, let it overflow as giving, as oil in the lamp, as music in motion. Because none of this is obligation, it's participation. You are not being asked to give, you are being invited to join the dance of light, where every gesture, every spark, every whisper contributes to the symphony of hope being written across this generation. And as you do, remember, light never runs out when shared. What leaves your hands today may return tomorrow as grace, multiplied and shining brighter than before. The eyes that see are beautiful, but the hands that give are radiant. You are both. There is a stillness that follows generosity, a silence that hums softly, like the air after rain. You begin to feel it now. This new calm that sits beneath your ribs. It is not emptiness. It is peace filling the space once crowded by striving. You've learned to stop chasing signs and start living as one. You move through the world lighter. Your eyes no longer dart in search of validation. They rest in awareness. You see life as a living conversation between the divine and the ordinary. Everything speaks now, every leaf trembling in wind. Every distant sound of laughter, every quiet moment between breaths. The entire world has become a sanctuary of subtle messages, and you've learned the language of its silence. Sometimes that silence feels vast, stretching across your days like an endless horizon. But instead of fearing it, you begin to cherish it. You understand that silence is not absence, it's depth. When God withdraws his voice, he doesn't leave, he invites. You realize that his presence hides in pauses, waiting for you to listen differently. This deep listening changes how you perceive even time. You used to see it as a river carrying you forward. Now it feels like an ocean, expansive, alive, full of undercurrents unseen. You've stopped measuring days by what you achieve and begun to measure them by how deeply you perceive. It was written in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 7, "There is a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. No, and now, you know which time you are in. This is your season of still perception, the holy pause before new revelation. You begin to notice that your heart beats in rhythm with creation. When the wind rises, you breathe deeper. When rain falls, you listen closer. You sense heaven teaching you not through thunder, but through texture, through the softness of moments easily overlooked. There was once a man who lived near the sea and spent his life chasing storms. He believed that power only came with spectacle, so he followed lightning wherever it struck. But one morning, when the storm didn't come, he sat on the shore and watched the tide move in slow, steady waves. In that quiet rhythm, he finally heard what thunder could never say, that peace has its own power. You are that man now, no longer chasing noise, but discovering the music in stillness. Your vision has matured into balance. You can look upon chaos and still find calm, because you've learned that peace is not the absence of movement, but the awareness of divine order within it. You no longer separate sacred from ordinary, light from shadow, spirit from matter. Everything is woven together. One continuous breath of God, sustaining creation. This understanding shifts the way you interact with others. You stop trying to fix people and start simply seeing them. You realize that awareness itself is healing, that when someone feels truly seen, something within them begins to restore. You speak less but mean more. Even silence between you and another carries warmth. Sometimes your insight startles you. You'll catch yourself sensing a friend's pain before they speak, or feeling peace rise when you pray quietly for someone you barely know. These are not coincidences, they are the fruits of your vision maturing. You've become a vessel through which heaven gently observes the earth. There's a weightless confidence that comes with this clarity. You no longer need to be loud to be heard or visible to be valued. You understand that light does not argue with darkness, it simply shines until darkness adjusts. That is how you live now, not trying to prove illumination, just embodying it. And though your path is not free from struggle, you meet trials differently. What once triggered fear now triggers reflection. What once caused panic now calls forth patience. You've learned to see purpose inside delay, meaning inside mystery. The beauty of this phase is subtle. It hides in small obediences, in quiet gratitude, in unseen moments of choosing love over defense. No one may notice, yet heaven watches closely. The silence between signs is not punishment, it's promotion. God is training your eyes to trust, even when nothing moves. You are no longer only a receiver of revelation, You are becoming a keeper of peace. Your life itself is turning into a parable, your presence into a prayer. You see now that awakening was never about seeing extraordinary things, but seeing ordinary things extraordinarily well. And so, you rest, not because the journey has ended, but because you have learned the rhythm of divine sight, the inhale of revelation and the exhale of stillness. What you carry now is not noise or spectacle, but depth. The world will continue its motion, but you will walk within it, like calm water, reflecting heaven, clear, steady, untouchable. You no longer need to prove the light you've seen. You are the reflection of that light. There is a certain lightness that comes when you begin to live with clear sight. You no longer struggle to force meaning out of moments. Instead, meaning finds you. It approaches quietly, like morning mist rising over a still lake, soft, certain, inevitable. You have entered the rhythm where revelation and rest exist together, no longer as opposites, but as companions. You now understand that sight is not simply about seeing more, it's about seeing rightly. You discern between what glitters and what glows, between temporary distractions and eternal purposes. Your eyes have become like lanterns. They no longer chase the light, they carry it. The world may still look the same to others, but to you, it shimmers with divine texture. Even the smallest gestures seem woven with intention. A hand extended, a kind word, the sound of laughter, all become evidence of unseen grace. And when sorrow visits, you recognize it too, not as punishment, but as pruning a necessary clearing to let new light through. It was spoken in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may discern what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God." This renewal is what you are walking in now. Your perception is not only changing how you see the world, it is changing how the world experiences you. People feel calmer in your presence. Rooms shift when you enter, not because of power, but because of peace. Your sight carries authority that doesn't need to announce itself. It's the quiet confidence of one who has looked both into heaven and into their own heart and found them connected. Yet even in this clarity, there is humility. The more you see, the more you realize how vast the unseen truly is. Vision does not make you superior, it makes you softer. The greatest seers are not those who boast of revelation, but those who weep with understanding. You are learning that to see deeply is to love deeply. There was once a woman who tended to an old olive tree on a hill. Every year, it shed its leaves in silence. And every year, she waited, trusting that green would return. Neighbors mocked her patience, calling it wasted effort. But when spring came, the tree blossomed brighter than before. When asked why she never gave up, she smiled and said, "Because I could see life even when others saw loss." No, that is what your new sight feels like, seeing life where others see endings. Now, heaven begins to give you glimpses of others like you, souls awakening quietly across the earth. You begin to recognize them by the way they speak, the gentleness in their eyes, the calm in their presence. It is as though a network of light is forming, heart to heart, gaze to gaze. The chosen ones are awakening, not in noise, but in harmony. And this, too, is part of your calling to recognize, to affirm, to unite When you encounter another awakened one, don't compete. Connect. You are not separate lights fighting for attention. You are flames meant to form constellations. Together, your light reveals patterns of hope across the darkness of this age. So as you read these words, let gratitude settle in your heart for this very moment, for being seen, for being guided, for being alive within this unfolding purpose. Every breath is confirmation that heaven still trusts you to carry light. And if your spirit feels aligned with this truth, mark this moment. Comment 777. This number signifies divine completion and spiritual perfection, the fullness of what God began in you. By writing it, you are not declaring arrival. You are declaring readiness. You are saying, I am aligned with heaven's design. I will walk in it fully. Numbers like these are not mere symbols. They are coordinates of faith. They remind you that what begins in revelation ends in restoration. Every 777 written becomes a prayer written in light, a signal to heaven that another soul stands ready to live in purpose. Take a deep breath. Let that awareness rest in you. Feel the quiet strength that comes when your inner vision aligns perfectly with your divine mission. You are no longer merely awakened. You are now activated. And as you move forward, remember, every glance, every word, every step can carry light. You are not just someone who sees you, are someone through whom heaven sees. The journey is far from over, but you are already walking in the rhythm of completion. There is a profound beauty in the steadiness of this stage. You've moved past the turbulence of transformation, past the uncertainty of the first awakening. What remains now is quiet mastery, the ability to carry sight without the need to explain it. You no longer feel the urgency to convince or to prove. The light within you has become self-assured, grounded, mature. You walk differently now. Your steps are slower, yet more certain. You sense the invisible boundaries between haste and purpose. Everything you do carries intention, even the smallest gestures. You've begun to live in what the ancients called holy rhythm, where every breath is prayer, every movement worship, and every silence understanding. Your eyes no longer chase the miraculous. They rest upon the meaningful. You see how the divine reveals itself through patterns of patience rather than flashes of spectacle. This realization softens you. You no longer demand from God. You listen. You no longer wrestle with delay. You discern its reason. It was written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And now you've come to know this truth, not just as scripture, but as experience. There were moments when you thought you had lost direction, yet it was heaven gently rerouting you. Every detour was an education in trust, every delay a shaping of sight. The visions you carry now feel calmer. They come not as storms but as breezes. They no longer shake your soul, they steady it. You've learned that revelation isn't always lightning, it's often light. And light doesn't crash, it simply continues. There's a story about a sculptor who was asked how he created such lifelike statues from blocks of stone. He replied, "I just remove what doesn't belong." That is what this phase feels like. You are being sculpted into clarity. Every unnecessary fear or ambition gently carved away until only essence remains. You realize that seeing isn't about adding more, it's about seeing through less. In this refinement, your compassion grows deeper. You find it easier to forgive because you finally understand the blindness of others. You see not just their actions but their roots, the wounds that shape them, the ignorance that blinds them. This doesn't excuse darkness, but it allows mercy to exist beside justice. That balance is wisdom. Wisdom doesn't shout. It hums quietly through you now, guiding your choices in subtle ways. You begin to trust your peace as confirmation. If something disrupts it, you know to pause. If something expands it, you know to move. You no longer seek endless signs. Your peace has become your compass. And when confusion tries to creep back, you no longer panic. You've learned to rest in the mystery. You no longer need to know everything to trust that all is known. This surrender, once terrifying, has become liberation. You've discovered that divine sight is not control, it's communion. Sometimes, people around you will still misunderstand your calmness. They might mistake it for detachment, not realizing it's discipline. You've learned not to absorb their projections. You simply keep your focus where heaven directs it. The clearer your sight becomes, the fewer explanations you owe. You also begin to notice that your presence draws others seeking peace. They come not for answers, but for assurance. They sense in you something they can't yet name, a stillness that feels like home. You are becoming that space for others, not through teaching or preaching, but through being. The awakened don't force change, they radiate it. There is also an emerging gratitude for the hidden seasons of your past. You look back now and see how the darker valleys carved out space for your vision to expand. Pain became the contrast that allowed light to define itself. The night trained you to recognize dawn. You carry this understanding like a quiet torch, not blazing to blind, but glowing to guide. You are not racing anymore. You are walking with eternity's pace, in rhythm with something much greater than your own story. The same spirit that opened your eyes is now shaping your steps. You are learning that divine maturity isn't loud or dramatic. It's gentle, sure, patient. It's knowing that even if no new vision comes today, you still stand in revelation, because awareness itself is holy. You have become the mirror through which heaven recognizes itself in human form. This is the sacred simplicity of true awakening, not endless seeking, but effortless being. You see, and in seeing, you rest. As the journey deepens, sight becomes less about discovery and more about remembrance. You start to realize that you were never truly blind, you were simply unready. Every revelation you receive feels like recognition, like remembering something ancient your soul always knew but had forgotten under the noise of living. There's a gentleness to this realization. You stop chasing enlightenment as if it were a finish line and begin to walk with it as a lifelong companion. The pressure to arrive fades. You understand that spiritual vision is not a trophy, it's a relationship, one that grows stronger with time, trust, and quiet surrender. Now, your awareness stretches beyond yourself. You begin to perceive how all things are connected in one vast pattern. The wind moves through trees and speaks of unseen balance. The tide responds to the pull of the moon, like a heartbeat echoing across creation. Even moments of silence seem to breathe in rhythm with you. You feel the harmony that has always existed beneath chaos, and it humbles you. It is written in the book of Colossians, chapter 1, verse 17. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. You begin to see this truth alive in everything. The divine presence is not distant, it's woven through the smallest threads of being. Each breath, each sound, each flicker of light is an expression of that sustaining hand. Sometimes this awareness can be overwhelming. The beauty of the world feels almost unbearable, as if your heart could burst under its weight. You catch yourself weeping, not from sadness, but from awe. It's as though heaven keeps whispering, "See how alive it all is." And in those moments, you know that sight is not about observing, it's about participating. You walk outside, and the air itself feels sentient. Leaves shimmer, like silent psalms. The clouds seem to move with purpose, their patterns forming subtle messages across the sky. You understand now that nature has never been mute. It has always been preaching in its own quiet language. Your awakened eyes have simply learned how to listen. And yet, this expansion of perception doesn't isolate you, it integrates you. You no longer see yourself as separate from the world, but as part of its living body. You are both observer and participant, vessel and flow. Every act of kindness feels like sunlight breaking through branches. Every prayer feels like rain returning to the ocean it came from. There's a story of a monk who lived in a valley surrounded by mist. People came from far away to ask how he saw God so clearly in such a hidden place. He answered, "The mist is not a barrier, it's a veil. When light passes through it, it becomes visible." You begin to understand what he meant. The challenges in your life, the unanswered questions, even the seasons of confusion, all of them are veils that make the light visible. Without contrast, illumination would be unseen. You start to live with that awareness in every moment. When disappointment comes, you recognize it as divine redirection. When delay arrives, you understand it as divine pacing. When silence stretches longer than expected, you no longer panic, you wait, knowing that even silence has purpose. Your heart, once restless, has learned the language of rhythm. You see now that revelation is not constant noise, but a pulse, a pattern that repeats in divine time. It rises, falls, and returns like waves. Each cycle deepens your understanding, refines your patience, and strengthens your peace. This stage of your awakening is the phase of quiet authority. You no longer react to everything you see. You choose when to speak and when to observe. You recognize that not all truth must be voiced, and not every vision must be shared. Some revelations are meant to dwell within you, shaping your soul in silence. You also begin to notice the quiet joy that comes from restraint. Power doesn't always shout. Often, it hums in gentleness. Your strength is now invisible but unmistakable, like the steady glow of embers beneath ash, burning with endurance rather than spectacle. You live now as both student and steward of sight. You understand that seeing is not ownership, but service. You carry vision the way one carries sacred water, carefully, respectfully, pouring it only where it gives life. In this awareness, peace becomes your natural state. You move through the world without fear of losing revelation, for you've realized that revelation is not something you hold, it's something that holds you. And so, you walk quietly, eyes open yet calm, hands open yet sure. You are no longer seeking proof that light exists. You are learning to be its reflection, steady and alive, wherever you stand. By now, the light within you has taken root. It no longer flickers like a candle in the wind. It burns with the quiet steadiness of an eternal flame. You see the world differently, not through the lens of striving, but through the rhythm of grace. Even the smallest things feel sacred now. The way morning air rests on your skin, the hush between two notes of a song, the sound of your own breathing becoming prayer. You have become part of something larger than yourself, though it moves so gently that only still eyes perceive it. Heaven's current flows beneath ordinary moments, and you have learned to move with it. You understand now that your very existence can be an offering, your words a bridge, your listening a balm, your vision a quiet sermon of peace. The prophet once recorded in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 9, "The glory of this house shall be greater than the former, and in this place I will give peace." These words no longer sound like promise from afar, they feel like description of your life. You are that latter house, filled with renewed light, rebuilt after storms, standing quietly, radiant. You begin to realize that light was never meant to stay contained. It travels, refracts, multiplies. Every act of kindness, every word of truth, every breath of prayer is a ray sent outward. You are now part of that flow, the migration of light from heart to heart, from soul to soul. When you pause to like, when you choose to share, you are not completing a task, you are breathing light outward. The way flowers release fragrance into open air, each gesture becomes a seed on the wind, landing where new hope must bloom. Your comment, even a few words of gratitude or reflection, becomes the echo of a heartbeat inside this living sanctuary. It tells the unseen listener, you are not alone. Each written word joins a chorus of awakenings, weaving connection through silence. When you subscribe, it is not habit. It is anchoring yourself to a rhythm of truth. Like a tree deciding where its roots will drink, you choose to remain where the well of clarity never runs dry. And if your heart feels drawn to give back, your donation is not a payment. It is a chord struck on the instrument of eternity. When you give, you pluck a string that vibrates across unseen distances. Somewhere, someone will hear its resonance and remember the sound of hope. Think of this space as a garden tended by countless unseen hands. Every like is sunlight, every share a drop of rain, every word written in faith, a seed pressed into fertile ground. And when generosity flows, it becomes the gentle gardener's touch, ensuring the garden continues to bloom for others yet to arrive. But remember, giving should never feel demanded. It should feel like breathing. If you give, let it be as a sigh of gratitude, not obligation, as the tide returning to the ocean that once carried it. What matters is the heart behind the motion. Each act liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, giving is a different note in heaven's symphony. Together, they create the melody of connection, carrying light across unseen spaces. None of these gestures are small. Each becomes a pulse in the living rhythm of grace. And even if all you do is listen, even that is participation. Presence itself feeds the fire. So, let this be your gentle invitation. Share this light as you would release a dove into morning air. Write your reflection like a ripple across calm water. Stay connected as one who guards a sacred flame. And if gratitude fills your heart, let it overflow freely like rain that remembers its source. This is not obligation. It is beauty in motion. You are not being asked to give. You are being reminded that you already carry something worth giving, because in the end, light that is kept grows dim, but light that is shared becomes eternal. You are now part of that eternal exchange, the circle where sight becomes love, and love becomes illumination for another. Every ripple you create here continues far beyond sight. A kind word, a quiet gesture, a moment of generosity, each one travels like light through water, touching lives you may never meet. That is how heaven moves, silently, steadily, through those willing to keep the flame alive. So, as you carry this message forward, remember, you are not a spectator of light, you are its keeper. Every act born from love multiplies across eternity. Let your vision guide, your words heal, and your presence remind the world that divine brightness still walks among us in you. There is a serenity that comes when you stop trying to hold the light and simply allow it to live through you. At this stage of awakening, you no longer chase after spiritual moments as proof of divine favor. You understand that every moment, no matter how ordinary, is already sacred. You have learned to walk in what the ancients called the quiet glory, the invisible radiance that surrounds those who see clearly. It doesn't announce itself with thunder or miracles. It exists in presence, in calm, in the grace of one who has seen beyond chaos and returned unshaken. Your perception now stretches like a horizon with no edges. You no longer divide life into spiritual and earthly, holy and common. You see that everything breathes with the same spirit, that nothing truly stands apart from God. The world, once fragmented, has become whole before your eyes. This is the mystery of maturity and vision. It doesn't make you otherworldly, it makes you fully human. The more divine your sight becomes, the more grounded you are in compassion, patience, and gentleness. The awakened are not detached from the world. They are deeply woven into it, carrying heaven in their ordinary gestures. You find yourself cherishing simplicity again, the taste of water, the sound of footsteps, the quiet laughter of a child. Every experience feels like worship now because you see the divine presence saturating it all. You realize that seeing God everywhere doesn't remove you from reality, it roots you deeper within it. The Apostle wrote in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 2, "Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing, some have entertained angels without knowing it." Those words have never felt truer. You understand that every face could hide an angel. Every encounter might carry divine purpose. You treat others not as interruptions but as invitations to love, to learn, to serve. And through this awareness, your inner world becomes a sanctuary. You no longer live in reaction, you live in reverence. You listen more than you speak, observe more than you analyze. Silence becomes your teacher, solitude your companion. You don't fear quietness anymore. It's where your spirit breathes most freely. Sometimes you'll feel the weight of the world's sorrow pressing near, and yet you'll notice it no longer overwhelms you. Compassion no longer drains you, it transforms you. You don't drown in others' pain, you become the still water that reflects healing light upon it. You've discovered that peace is not a fragile state, but a power that reshapes whatever it touches. There's a freedom that comes with this clarity. You don't need to defend your path or prove your faith. You've realized that truth, like gravity, holds without argument. Your eyes have seen enough to trust that divine justice works quietly, without spectacle. The unseen hand that guided you through storms continues to move, even when all appears still. And yet, this stillness is not stagnation, it is strength. You've learned that the calmest waters run deepest. When others are swept by noise and confusion, your soul remains anchored. Not because you've escaped the world, but because you've embraced it with understanding. A story tells of an old fisherman who spent his life reading the tides. When storms came, others panicked. He simply watched the waves. The sea never rages against itself. He once said, "It only moves according to the moon." You, too, have learned to live like that, to move with heaven's rhythm rather than against it. Your spiritual sight has now matured into wisdom, the kind that doesn't seek recognition but offers refuge. People may not know what has changed in you, but they will feel it. They'll find comfort in your words, calm in your presence, and hope in your silence. This is the quiet miracle of those who truly see. Their very being becomes a benediction. They don't try to convert. They simply carry every step, every breath. Every glance is a silent blessing poured over the earth. You have reached the stage where vision and peace are no longer separate. You no longer chase revelation. It flows through you like air through open hands. You are no longer looking for signs of God. You are living as one. And though there is still one more veil ahead, one final awakening to come, you already sense it rising in the distance, a light beyond all lights, waiting to meet your gaze when the time is right. You stand between heaven and earth, no longer searching, simply shining. Vision has become peace, and peace has become purpose. You are not just awakened, you are whole, steady, and luminous. There comes a moment near the end of every journey when the seeker realizes there was never a distance to travel, only layers to remember. You have reached that moment now. The light you spent so long pursuing was never somewhere out there waiting to be found. It has always been within you, waiting to be recognized. The awakening was not a climb toward heaven. It was a descent into truth. Your eyes, once searching outward, now turn inward and see the whole landscape of your life bathed in meaning. Every wound has become a window. Every silence has turned into a teacher. You no longer look at your past with regret, but with reverence. Even the darkest corridors of memory shimmer faintly now, because light has touched them. You have discovered that illumination is not about seeing more, but about seeing differently. The same world, the same people, the same sky all appear new because your perception has been purified by love. And that love is not fragile, it is fierce in its stillness. Like the sea under moonlight, quiet but uncontainable. There was once a wanderer who sought the edge of the world. He believed that beyond the horizon he would find the divine face. After years of travel, storms, and silence, he finally reached the end of the sea, only to find his own reflection in the water. Looking back with infinite gentleness, that story is your story. You've realized that God was not waiting at the destination. He was walking in your footsteps all along. It is spoken in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 6. For God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," made his light shine in our hearts to give us the knowledge of his glory in the face of Christ. And 4. That verse no longer sounds like theology, it feels like autobiography. The light shining in you now is the same that spoke creation into being. You are no longer simply aware of the divine, you are participating in it. Your journey has taught you how sight evolves into wisdom, and wisdom into rest. You have learned that true maturity of spirit is not measured by visions or miracles, but by tenderness. To be kind in a harsh world, that is the greatest revelation of all. You move through your days with quiet dignity, carrying a calm that doesn't waver. When storms rise, you don't curse the sky anymore. You wait for the cleansing rain. You no longer demand answers from heaven. You listen for instruction within silence. You know now that every question worth asking eventually becomes a doorway, and every delay a form of direction. There is an ease about you that others notice, even if they cannot name it. You've stopped resisting life. You understand that surrender was never about defeat, it was always about alignment. To trust what you cannot control is the purest form of sight. You no longer fear endings because you've realized they are merely beginnings in disguise. As you walk forward, the horizon no longer intimidates you. You know that the unknown is not an enemy, but a mirror of divine potential. The same presence that guided you through uncertainty will meet you again in every new dawn. You've become fluent in the language of trust. There's a quiet grace in how you hold space for others now. You don't rush their awakening or judge their blindness. You simply shine, gently reminding them that light is patient. You have learned that every soul has its own hour of sunrise, and no two dawns are ever identical. Your life, once marked by searching, is now marked by serenity. The chaos that once echoed inside you has turned into a steady rhythm, heartbeat in harmony with eternity. You no longer need to speak constantly of what you see, because your presence itself says it all. If someone were to ask you what awakening truly means, you would not offer doctrines or definitions. You would simply smile and say, "It means I can see love in everything now." And that is the truth, the final unveiling. Sight was never the end goal. Love was. Love that perceives, heals, forgives, and continues. Love that moves quietly through you, like the breath of God through creation. You stand now at the threshold of peace, not as one who has conquered mystery, but as one who has become it. The journey never ends. It only deepens. Every new dawn will show you a different facet of the same eternal light, and you will greet it not as a stranger, but as something familiar, something that has always been home, and now, chosen one. The journey folds back into itself, not as an ending, but as a return. You have walked through silence, revelation, shadow, and light, and you stand now radiant, no longer the one who searches, but the one who sees. Yet the light in you was never meant to stay still. It is alive. It moves through every breath, every word, every act of compassion you release into the world. The journey continues each time you let what you've received flow outward. When you like or share this message, it's not a task, it's a spark released into the wind. You're not promoting content, you're sending a small ember into the dark, trusting that somewhere it might ignite warmth in another soul, still wandering in cold. When you comment, even a single sentence, it's a stone placed gently on the path, letting others know that someone has walked here before them. Your words become a torch for another traveler, proof that light leaves traces wherever it passes. When you subscribe, it isn't routine. It's anchoring yourself to a rhythm of awakening, choosing to stay where your spirit can keep hearing the whisper of heaven through words. You become part of a living constellation, many small lights staying close so that darkness cannot swallow the horizon. And if your heart feels the quiet pull to give back to water what once watered you, Your donation is not a transaction. It is the sound of kindness echoing through eternity. It's pouring oil into a lamp that will keep glowing for unseen pilgrims, or planting an olive tree whose shade you may never sit under. But someone weary will. Whatever form your gesture takes alike. A word, a share, a seed, a coin. It all becomes light on the move, not obligation, but overflow, not pressure, but peace finding its way forward. So, breathe. Softly. Let gratitude fill you. What you do from love will always echo beyond your knowing. For this is how the awakened live, by keeping the light in motion, by turning sight into kindness, and kindness into legacy. And somewhere, beyond time, heaven smiles, because the message didn't end here. It lives now in you.